and welcome back to a podcast for creative people with me, your host, Christopher Tallon. I write books. You should buy them and read them and rate them and review them everywhere you can. In the meantime, while you're doing that, I'd like to tell you about Cocoon Art Space and a show that's going on there right now called Growth. Cocoon Art Space is on 327 South Division in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's owned by a married couple named Ted and Josie. They have regular art that's on display all the time there, along with art supplies, decorations, books, and regularly changing exhibits. The current exhibit, if you're listening around the time this dropped, they collabed with Jurries, who I speak to last out of all the artists. They have individual art pieces on display and one collaborative art piece around the theme Growth. And you'll hear me ask them about the theme. I'm really talking more like, how did they get a unifying idea around the theme? And it's very interesting how they produce this collaborative piece of art. So I hope you enjoy listening to all of the artists. We're going to start by talking to Ted, one of the co-owners of Cocoon Art Space, who is also one of the 9 artists in the collaborative piece. So for all the artists that you're listening to, if you're interested, check the show notes. I'll have all the stuff for Cocoon as well as each artist, and I'll introduce each artist before their little interview here. So enjoy, and if you get a chance, check out my IG and you'll be able to see the painting that they all worked on, or check out Cocoon Art Space, or go to Cocoon Art Space if you're here in Grand Rapids. Damn it. Ted, you're one half of the owner, founder. What are all the things?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So Cocoon Art Space.
Yeah.
I am co-owner. I'm not the managing partner, but I'm the supporting managing partner, I guess you could say.
Okay.
But I'm also the featured artist, so that gives me a lot of leeway in what goes on around here. At least I think so.
Yeah. All right, well, give me the real quick elevator pitch history of Cocoon Art Space.
Cocoon Art Space, we opened 2.5 years ago in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The goal was to have a place to sell our own art and the things we make, our creative goods, to customers locally, but also work with the local artist groups, individuals, and anybody we can who is a creative, more or less, whether they're an artist like a painter or somebody who makes a small object that's creative. I mean, it takes different levels and skills, and we like to celebrate all of that. So that was our goal. And so far, we're still here. So things are working out.
And you have regular stuff that's in here all the time, but then you have rotating exhibits too. And we're here tonight at the beginning of one of the exhibits on the opening night. And this one is particularly cool because it's all the artwork is like a collaborative thing, right?
Right. Well, there's one piece in specific that's a collaborative piece.
Yeah.
So each artist, there are 9 artists involved in this show. Each artist has 1 to 3 pieces on exhibit. But then there was one canvas that each artist took for 1 week and painted on or worked on, did their thing with, and then passed it on to the next artist.
Was there an agreement like each artist gets so much of the canvas, or?
You got 1/9 of the canvas. So we left the artists there to do their own math.
Okay.
Figure out what 1/9 looked like.
1/9, okay.
Okay. So overall, it worked out pretty well. You know, people were excited about it. It took the artists out of their typical comfort zones of this is what I do, this is what I make.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like, how do I collaborate with the person that came before me? How do I kind of leave something for the person that comes after me to interact with? So the goal was to have something that one represents growth, but then also to interact as much as you can with somebody without being there at the same time.
Yeah, it's collaborative art is fun. When artists do it, when writers do it. Who went first?
So this was the brainchild of our friend John Jurries. He wanted to do this show, so we made him go first.
Okay.
And of course, he's more of a cartoonist with his cute little monsters. And he did his black and white drawing off left center with no background. So there was a ton of white space for the second person.
Nice.
So that was the kind of challenge for people, is like they didn't want to be a space hog and take up too much space, and didn't want to go too small. But you know, you don't know what everyone else is doing. There was no master plan.
That was going to be my next question. Was there any group discussion on like, okay, let's kind of go this way with it, or let's have this theme, or?
Yeah, we wanted to keep it as organic and fun as possible.
Yeah.
For the artists, and it worked out. I mean, most of them were not stressed out. We had some some stress issues. We had some people who were a little afraid to do whatever, but I think in the end, it allowed the artists to explore a little bit, which is something that, as a creative, it's important to have that time to do something a little different and explore and dabble, play, without being stressed out about your current pieces and getting to the next level with your project or whatever. Sometimes you need that break. And everyone seemed to respond to it well.
How did you come up with the roster of artists that would be part of this?
That was also part of John's duties. We granted him the title of curator for this show, assistant curator, and he came in with a list of people that he's met and worked with, all the same people that we've known over the years from doing markets and shows and local art scene events. So it was great to have kind of a go-to list already for 9 people. And the best part was no one said, I'm not interested. Every single person hopped on board and went forward with it. So it was great.
That's fun. You're one of the artists that is part of it too, right?
Yeah.
Which part's yours?
I have the space turtle with a tree in the corner.
Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, kind of follows your.
Some of these guys.
Yeah.
I figured it was an open enough theme to provide some different dynamics and colors and designs that people could work off of. And Cassidy worked on that. She brought in that space element and sort of a Mother Nature goddess theme, and kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, it's fun to look at just because you can feel all the artists like independently, but then it all comes together too.
Yeah, that was our biggest fear, was that will it be a kind of a consistent piece, or will it be a hodgepodge of random stuff? I think we did pretty well. I think overall it is less hodgepodgey than it could be. And
I think it came out really well.
There's some nice elements that tie in from piece to piece.
Yeah.
It was great to see it come to life. And every time an artist would come in and see what the person did before them, they're like, the giant grin on their face, like, oh man, that's so cool, I can't wait now, because it kind of charge them up and they're like ready to take on the challenge to do their piece.
Yeah,
it was a good time.
All right, very cool. Anything else you want to say about the gallery, this curated experience here, or anything else that people should know going forward about this place?
We do group shows. We list them on our website if people are interested. We also have a forum on our website that'll be relaunched soon for artists and makers who are interested in having their product in our store. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We're always looking for Michigan artists and makers, of any kind. And we're willing to talk to you, see how we can work together. And if there's a spot for you here, we like to see that too. So Josie and I are pretty down-to-earth people. We like to have this kind of a hybrid art gallery / artisan goods / gift shop model that doesn't really exist in other places. So we want to have as many creatives share that experience as possible.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks for talking to me, Ted.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, the next artist you're going to hear from is Jenny Hearns. Jenny's a graphic designer by day and an artist the rest of the time. She does paintings, murals. I've got one of her stickers on my computer. I've got one of her buttons on my jacket, and I've sent cards that she's made as gifts to friends. Very cool art. It's like spooky and cute. It's cool. Check her out. You can get a link to her stuff in the show notes. Jenny.
Hi.
Sorry, I'm laughing because she had no idea that we were going to start. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. First of all, your art kicks ass. I think I've told you that before. You've kind of been all around town and done a lot of different things. How did you get involved with Cocoon Art Space and this project specifically?
Well, I've been working with Cocoon for a few years now. I initially met them at a market. as when they were selling stuff for Monstorium, and kind of just kept seeing them at markets, and eventually like started doing some group art shows with them. And I even showed for my first time for Art Prize. They were the venue that I was in.
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So because I knew them, I was kind of like, hey, you better put my stuff in here.
Yeah.
So that was like, it was their first year and it was my first year. So it was really nice to kind of have that connection and experience. But I've worked with them quite a bit in different art shows, and I also sell some of my products here as well. That it's kind of like how my name got associated with the Growth Collaborative project.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Nice, yes.
I
remember. When
I've got one here. It's on
that,
on my computer. I already talked to Ted, and he kind of ran through the collaborative art piece here. What order were you? How much of that canvas was already taken up when you got it?
I was fourth in line with it.
Okay, so almost halfway through. At the point that you got it, how much?
It was just like the bottom corners and then right above on the left side, so John's piece.
Okay.
So I played off of John's piece.
Okay.
There was a lot of white space still.
Yeah, and you guys had no like agreement on like, let's follow this theme or let's.
Well, the theme was growth, so we all follow the theme of growth.
But I mean that could look like so different to so many people.
It was our interpretation of growth.
Yeah. Okay. But within that, it could be spiritual, very. I hate to use the word absurd because I feel like it has negative connotations, but I don't mean it in that way. But like, it's got very like normal and practical stuff in it, and then it's got stuff that's just like way out there. It turned into a really cool thing. How did you feel when you first got the canvas and you were like, okay, now I got to put my thing on here?
I was very intimidated.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure what direction to go in.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people know me for my spooky stuff. And like, do I go some kind of spooky route with it? But it didn't really seem to fit in with what was already on the canvas.
Yeah.
And I wanted something to fit in a little bit more. And going kind of more of a nature theme, I ended up kind of recycling a project I had done almost 10 years ago in my last year at Kendall.
Okay.
I had made a screen print of a chickadee, and there were some power lines, and there was like 3 other chickadees that were still on the power line, and that one chickadee was flying away. And that was kind of representative of me leaving the nest and going off on my own, like my family. And now, like reworking that piece, bringing it back in this, it kind of shows the growth of me as an artist then versus now.
Yeah.
And then I tied it in also with John's piece with the paintbrushes as a plant. So it's flying away, holding one of those paintbrushes.
It's a different style for you too. It's kind of fun to see what comes out. Like, because I've not done it in writing, but I've done a little bit of like music projects for people where they'll ask for something that is not something that I would normally just sit and be like, let me try to write a song like that. And it's always interesting to see what comes out, because when I first looked at that, I was like, where's Jenny's? Like, it took me.
But that's more of the style of art I was doing prior to doing the spooky drawings
too.
So it's kind of going back into my roots in a sense too.
Yeah.
I have done a few acrylic paintings and stuff too, so that's more of the style I do when I do acrylic than I do with the pen and ink, like spooky drawings.
Mm-hmm.
But I've more recently have been experimenting more with turning those drawings also into acrylic. So I have my Ghost Gardener in this show as well, that is more in the acrylic style and in color and stuff too. People are always shocked when they see my work in color, and like, I was doing color way before all the black and white stuff. That's just what happened to be one project, was just trying to do something that is in pen and ink when I'm a digital illustrator as well, and where I can't undo it. So it's like you have to commit to the mark and then post it too.
Yeah.
I was doing daily drawings, I had to post each one of those. So it's like you can't undo, or you have to like rework it.
Right.
If you make a mistake.
Mm-hmm. So you have you call them the spooky the spooky stuff that you do, but it has like a very like cute, awkward, scary kind of like charm to it. And I'm wondering, do you like stuff that's actually scary, or
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't like horror or gore or anything like that. I like, if I'm watching like a scary movie, it's more of suspenseful thriller type movies.
Sure.
I like adding a little like satirical elements into my pieces, a little like whimsy and just like make it cute and stuff. I want people to be able to connect to it and see. I like to hide little like things within it. Also, like growing up in the 90s, I incorporate a lot of like old technology because I was alive for the advancement of the internet and things like that. So I try to go old school with a lot of the stuff too in my pieces.
Yeah. I had my first book had time travel in it, and it started in the 90s, and just like the one scene where I was talking about a mom who was like had a phone tucked in while the cord was wrapped around her, was like, that feels like home to me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess real quick, I want people that are listening to be able to find you. Where should people go to look for you? Instagram, you got a website, Facebook?
Yeah, you can mostly find me on Instagram. It's at Jenny Hearns. And I have a Facebook. I don't really post much on there. That's Jenny Hearns Creative. But I also have a website, jennyhearns.com, where you can find my portfolio, the markets I'm going to be at. I have an online store, a bunch of different stuff on there.
Nice. All right. Well, good luck with all the art that you have in here, and just with everything going forward. Your art's awesome. At least I think so. And I've got your stickers and your buttons. So one of these days I'll actually pull down one of these pieces too.
Yeah, thank you so much.
The next artist I'm going to speak with is Robyn Smith, who is the lone sculptor of the crew. If you look down at the bottom right-hand corner of the painting, you'll see that it actually comes off of the canvas. That's Robyn's work. Robyn is really cool. We had a great conversation about stuff that I am out of my depth on, and she really put a nice touch on the painting itself there. So check out her part of that contribution and click on her stuff in the show notes, and that'll take you to robynlinstudios.com, where you can check that stuff out and maybe even get some of your own. Woo! All right, Robyn Smith, no relation to Ted.
No.
You have got several pieces in here, and then you did the, I don't know, I guess it's still sculpture. It's just attached to a painting, which is pretty cool. How do you get that to stay on a canvas like that?
So I did quite a bit of research because I wasn't sure what to use to glue it on the canvas. And then the sculpting element I used wasn't my norm. I didn't want to use ceramic because it would be too heavy. So I was a bit nervous about that. So I actually used an epoxy sculpting. And you basically have two parts and you mix them together, and then it creates this putty, almost like polymer clay. And so I sculpted with that. And so now it's a plastic. So that was kind of another added challenge, to find a glue that would glue to plastic and then to canvas.
So it was your first time doing that then?
It was my first time doing it, yeah.
Learning it all on the fly.
Yeah, yep. So Ted gave me some great advice on some options that he's used in the past. And I did some research and some testing. And in the end, there's so many glues out there. I learned more about glue than I ever wanted to ever know. So, in the end, I just used I couldn't even tell you what it is, but it's for ceramic, plastic, clay, fabric, and tested it. It worked. So
when they were like, hey, we're going to make this group painting, can you do sculpture to it? Or did they say, did you want to paint on it? And you were like, no, let me do how.
Yeah. So actually, I paint on my sculptures, right? So I'm comfortable with painting, but I paint with glaze, and it's a very different way of painting than paint on canvas. But when I got the invite to do this, I saw the list of artists and I was just very excited to collaborate with them. And of course, John asked me, so I was in immediately, without even thinking about, I'm going to have to paint, like real painting, and that freaked me out. But after about a week, I processed it, and I had seen John at a party the following week, and I said, "Hey, like, can I put sculpture on this?" And he's like, "Do whatever you want." And Ted and Josie were behind me too, so I was like, "Okay." So that's when, like, the kind of thought process went into, how do I add a painting, but also like put my way of doing things on it, because I can paint, but I wanted to showcase my skill, what I'm comfortable with doing.
When did you get into sculpting? Because, like, obviously you can paint. I'm assuming you have like just all the rudimentary, quote unquote art skills. But when did you go like, this is going to be my focus, or is that your focus? I don't know you that well.
It is, yeah. So it became my focus probably about 5 years ago.
Okay.
It's probably a similar story to most people, but during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
I had taken art ceramics classes before as for fun. I used to do graphic design, and it was high stress. So after work, I would take some pottery classes here and there, and I loved it. Well, then when the pandemic hit, I was like, I want to get back into some tactile art, right? Get out of the computer for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I, when the world reopened, I joined my local art center. Took maybe like 6 months of classes there, and then from around that time, I moved out here. I used to live on the east side of the state. Moved out here, and just kept going. I just fell in love, and it was just so meditative and calming, and it connected with me. So yeah, it's been about 5 years, and I'm still learning and trying to figure things out. But it is my focus because I love it, and I've met so many wonderful people through it, and the community's great. So.
Did you have a formal education in the graphic design?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I got my bachelor's in graphic design, and I did that for probably like 15 or so years.
Oh, wow.
Worked my way up, got into management, decided that was not for me. And then I left the place I was working for in 2019 with the goal to take some time off and then maybe do freelance or find another job. And then again, you know what happened.
It all kind of worked out right in time.
Yeah, so it all worked out. And then after I found pottery again and moved out here and found the art community, I said, I don't want to do graphic design again. I'm happy where I'm at.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always been art, but really just fairly recently that it's been pottery, sculpture, and that kind of thing.
Fine art, yeah.
Wow, that's cool. So how would you describe your style to me? Because I see here in Cocoon that there's stuff that's very like traditional looking, like a bowl that with the mushrooms on it. That's so cool looking. But then over here, there's something that looks like, out of the corner of my eye, I was like, that almost kind of reminds me of like a heart. And it almost kind of reminds me of like coral. So yeah, it seems like you're very connected to nature with your art.
Yes, yeah. That's cool that you thought of heart because and coral, because that's what I get a lot of from that piece. Yeah. And I feel like that piece is one of my more connected pieces to me, and it was something I worked through a lot of feelings with that piece. Oh, wow. So I love that you see a heart. But my style, yeah, definitely nature inspired, organic. I enjoy hand building, so I like to use like the natural like waves, and when I roll out a slab and the edges aren't straight, I like to leave that sometimes. I like to leave the natural forms of what that is, the process of it. I really love wildlife.
Yeah.
Always loved wildlife since I was a little kid. So a lot of my research and a lot of my, when I go out and take walks and stuff, I find myself, oh, there's a bird, there's a bunny, and I just like watch it. So I enjoy adding those elements into my work.
Yeah.
And
The river otter on the
yeah.
on the one piece over there. We were talking about it because I see a river otter that's in a creek near my house a lot, and I always want to go pet it. And I looked it up on ChatGPT the other day, and it's like, even though they are adorable looking, they are wild animals with sharp teeth, and they can hurt you really bad. So I was like, all right.
Then why are they so cute?
Yeah, I know, right? It's like those science fiction movies where they walk up to a really cute little thing, and then it bites their hand off. Yeah.
Takes their arm off. Yeah. I like to incorporate the realistic animals and insects, anything from the cute that we all love and want to pet, to the stuff that people have come to my booth and said, ew, why? And I'm like, because a slug or a snail or a moth or cicada, and I think a lot of people around here resonate with that, but a lot of people don't. But I like to draw attention to those overlooked ones because they do so much for our environment.
Yeah.
If you really read about them, they're way more beneficial than some of the really cute mammals. But
yeah. And just the lifespan of a cicada is insane.
Oh, yeah. And then it's like what they do in that time. But yeah, it's fun for me to learn. I read a lot of nature books, a lot of books about wildlife and about our world, and so I just enjoy putting those words and learning into my art.
It's awesome. Well, I hope anybody that's listening will check you out. Where can they find you online? Website, social media, stuff like that?
On social media, I'm most active on Instagram. I have a Facebook, but I don't go on it often. So my Instagram is Robyn Lynn Studios. And my website is robynlynnstudios.com.
Cool. And that'll all be in the show notes for anybody who's like, wait, I didn't catch that.
Cool.
All right. Awesome. All right. Well, Robyn, thanks for being a part of the experience here. I love your art, and I love what you did with the group piece here.
Thank you so much.
Hey, longtime listeners probably remember that song. It used to be the theme song. All right, next we're going to talk to C.R. Warner, who is just a watercolor magician. Like, you can't get detail like that out of water. Well, I didn't think you could until I saw this. So check it out. Cassidy, better known as C.R. Warner to the art community.
That's true.
Start by telling the people who aren't familiar with your work what mediums you work in, what your general style is.
Yeah, watercolor is kind of my jam. My pitch is I like to explore feminine themes through a strange and surreal lens. So it's a lot of portraits of women. But do you ever look at like Junji Ito's art? He's like a manga artist, very horror.
I'm sure I have, but I don't know the name. Yeah.
So it tends to like lean into that a little bit, but maybe not as graphic. I like it to be beautiful but weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that too. Yeah, I'm into just about anything that's weird in the description.
Yeah, same.
One thing that really strikes me with your watercolor is that I'm looking at the right ones right there, right?
Yeah.
Right next to John's. Yeah. It's very realistic and detailed, which just kind of boggles my mind that you can get that much detail like in an eyeball with watercolor. How long have you been really hitting it hard with the watercolor?
I think I like doing that kind of work with watercolor because people tend to expect, when I say I'm a watercolor artist, it's like they think it's landscapes or architecture, and that's all very beautiful. But I like doing it with anatomy. I think is real pretty. I've been doing watercolor for coming up on 10 years here, and before that, color pencil artist. So I like detail. The watercolor, I like it's unpredictable. So I really am only trying to like laser focus on features, and the rest of it, I just kind of allow it to fall into place. So it's still like, hopefully it's still kind of like ethereal, but I want it to, like, I want you to look at it and understand it's a portrait. Like, it's not photorealistic by any means, but realistic enough.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean? Yeah, heavy on features.
yeah.
Tiny brushes.
I was gonna say, like, how do you really do that? But just with
Patience. A hair dryer.
patience,
I think the
small brushes, little bits of paint at a time.
the mistake people make, I think, with the medium is they like overwork it too fast. And so if you're impatient, just take like a hair dryer and like do your first wash, air dry it, and go right back into it. Otherwise, you'll muddy it up and you won't. It's like there's so many layers. Like that painting has hundreds of layers on it to get it punched in like that.
Oh wow.
So you just gotta. Otherwise, you'd be waiting for hours and hours, like for water to dry. Hair dryer.
Is there a good method to it? Like low blow on hot from like 2 feet away, so it doesn't smudge out.
I did, like, when I was first starting with it, I did like go on Reddit and I was like, is there, like, someone help me not make a mistake here? Is it gonna be, am I gonna ruin the paper or the integrity of the paper if I have it on like high heat, or does it need to be cool? No one could give me an answer, and I've literally never seen a difference, and the paper has always been fine. So, and I do it on a high heat setting, so it's faster.
Yeah,
works for me so far.
Yeah, all I know about blow dryers is high heat to dry and cool to set.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
So how did you get involved with the growth project here at Cocoon?
Yeah, I met John probably at an art market somewhere. I'm sure we just ran into each other so many times eventually. You're like, how did we meet? I don't know. But yeah, he asked if I would do it. 100% yes. I got really excited when I saw the list of artists. I'm like, oh, yeah, I definitely want to do something with these people. So yeah, just got an email, said yes right away.
What order were you in the 9 artist rotation?
I was pretty early on. I think I was 4 or 5.
Okay.
Somewhere there. There was still a lot of white.
Oh, so you might have got it right after Jenny then.
I think I got it. I did get it right after Jenny. Yeah, I did. Because yep, that is correct.
Okay. So yeah, still quite a lot of white on the canvas when you got it.
Yeah, definitely.
Had you been thinking about what you might do, or did you just wait until you saw what was coming and go, all right?
Yeah, there wasn't no one got together and was like, hey, let's discuss ideas and like the vision. There was just the theme, which I like. But it was kind of ambiguous after that, so I figured I would just
even within that theme too, like it,
do
like we would talk about, it could mean so much to different people. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's why I was like, I'm just gonna wait. I like working quickly. Like if I overthink it too much, I'm just gonna stress myself out and then land at my original idea anyway. So like it was like you get 7 days with it. I'm like, when I see it, I'll know like something will come of it. I did try, like when I first got it, I was trying so hard to figure out how to I wanted to interact with Jenny's bird, and I did so many things I couldn't get it to go. So then I went with my second idea. But yeah, organically, I guess.
Yeah. And then how long did you actually spend working on your part here?
I like to work under pressure. So Jenny needed an extra day, and then I forgot my pickup day, and then they texted me, and I was like, oh yeah. And so when I got it, I only had 4.5 days left of my week, and I was working, I had shows, and so I had a 24-hour period where I was like, if you're gonna do it, it has to be done on this day. And so I pulled I don't say all-nighter, but I was working till 3 a.m. to do it, and I never worked on canvas before with watercolors, so I was just sweating. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best art gets made on deadline crunches and hysteria.
Yeah, a little bit of pressure is good for you, I think.
Real quick, where can people find more of your work?
My website is crwarner.com, and then all my social media handles are crwarnerart. So Instagram, Facebook, I'm on TikTok. I do lots of in-process videos. And then I'm doing just a million art markets. My whole schedule's on my website.
Awesome. Yeah, the art markets, especially the ones around just West Michigan in general, it's a lot of fun because every time you go to an art market and you're not sure who's going to be there, and then you see like 5 of your friends, and it's like camp.
It is like a party. You show up, I'm like, hell yeah! Like,
oh, they're here, yes.
And then when you're like surprise neighbors, I did a market a couple weekends ago, and the weather wasn't great. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a rough one. Yeah. And then John pulled up. I'm like, are you my neighbor? I'm like, great. It was a great day.
Thank you so much for sitting down.
Yeah, thank you.
I've really enjoyed looking at your work and getting to know you as an artist, and then also just now here as a person.
Thank you so much.
All right, this last artist is John Jurries. He's kind of the mastermind behind the whole project, and he draws monsters and has been drawing one every day for over 10 years. Talk about getting into a rhythm, eh? So yeah, he's going to tell us kind of how this whole thing came about and how his art got its style. So take it away, John. All right, John Jurries. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I hear you're kind of the mastermind behind this particular exhibit. Before we get to that, tell me about your art, because I know you're on a, well, how long has it been that you've been drawing a monster every day?
I am on my 12th year now. As of today, I've done like 4,100 something.
And can you tell the ones that you drew on days that you just felt like garbage? Like maybe they don't they don't have a big smiley face on those ones?
Yeah, there have been a few of those over the years.
So tell me about your style. Everything that I've seen of yours, which I'm sure is just a fraction of the whole, it seems to be very bright, colorful, and happy. Like most of the monsters have a smile on their face. Where does your style, where does that color and that kind of just like pure joy come from?
Yeah, I've always just been drawn to, very much still the Saturday morning cartoon kid.
Yeah.
Growing up. I've always been drawn to the fun, playful stuff. Definitely a lot of Pokemon growing up, so that's been an influence. And then before I even started doing the Monster of the Days, I was drawing a lot of monsters in general, and I had some that were a little darker and more macabre, and they've been really clicking with me.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the way, I just sort of found the iconic smile I tend to give all my guys, and it brought the playful, whimsical nature to them. And it all just sort of clicked for me.
Yeah.
So I just stuck with that ever since.
And how long have you been, serious with art? Because I know, some people talk to say, oh, only really in the pandemic did I really start to explore this, and that. And some people say, oh yeah, I've been finger painting and went straight into finger painting to middle school art class to AP art. Then I studied art in college. What was your kind of path into art?
So I've definitely been drawing since I was a kid, since I could pick up a pencil.
Yeah.
I was doing it. And then it was just sort of, you fall in and out of it over the years.
Yeah.
And I went to college for computer animation and game design, which is kind of related. I had a few art classes and a couple of character design stuff, but it wasn't directly flexing that side of my creative brain.
Yeah.
And then, I would say it was around the time I started doing the Monster of the Day project around 12 years ago that it really started taking it seriously. And it was never supposed to go on this long either. That was only ever meant to be a month-long challenge.
Yeah, I read that. And that, before that, was it difficult for you to like make yourself create something every day?
Yeah.
Because I definitely feel that right now with where I'm at with just starting a new book. I might work on it 1-2 days a week and just be kind of like, and I need to get back into that rhythm of like at least doing it 5-6 days a week.
Yeah, it's tough because I tend to be the Monster of the Day aside, I tend to not be very disciplined in my life.
Yeah.
So it was good to build that creative structure where it's not even a question or choice of, do I feel like painting today? It's, what am I going to paint today?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been there with writing too. Like, well, once I get really deep into a book, then if I take a day off from writing, like all day long, my wife can just tell that I'm like in my head and I'm thinking and I'm kind of like just withdrawn. She's like, you need to go do that. Yeah. Do you find yourself doing this at the same time or thereabouts every day? Like, do you have like a set aside creative time, or do you sometimes be like, oh shit, it's 11 p.m. I gotta make my monster today.
So I try to post them by 8 o'clock every night. So I set a deadline.
Okay.
So it's that. But yeah, I usually work on them a little bit the night before just to get it started.
Yeah.
And then the next, usually early afternoon is when I'll knock the rest of it out.
Okay. I didn't know if at this point, with that many days in a row, if you get to like, you know, I don't know if like 1:15 came around and you're just like, I have to stop what I'm doing and go draw a monster.
There are days like that. There are days. And then there are the days when you just don't have any ideas. And then, you know, it gets to 2, 3 o'clock. Oh no, am I going to have an idea in time?
Yeah. And you're like, oh no, I drew a square monster.
Yeah.
Okay. So what, coming back to the project, the growth project here, this beautiful painting / sculpture, what inspired you to want to get together with Josie and Ted and say, hey, let's do this project?
So I had the idea. It was just like I was supposed to be on, you know, the creative break from all the markets and everything around Christmas. Between Christmas and New Year's, I was giving myself a couple of weeks down just to not work on anything else beyond the paintings.
Right.
Just have some downtime. And then the idea came to me, and I knew right away I wanted to do it. And I had the list of artists in mind right away, and I thought about just contacting them and passing it along between us. But it's like, you know, but then no one really gets to see it.
Yeah.
And then plus I'd have to organize all of that, and I'm not good at them. So yeah, I reached out to them right away just because I knew they could help take this weird, wired idea into something that has a skeleton structure to it and organized, and then we can make a cool gallery show out of it too.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've been fantastic to work with. They were good right away, and we had a nice meeting and hashed it out for several hours, and we came away with the structure of what we wanted to do.
What was it that made you pick growth as the theme? Was that your idea? Was that their idea? Did you guys kind of come up with it together?
That was actually Josie's idea.
Okay.
We were talking about, you know, do you want to have a loose abstract theme or something more solid, you know, like, oh, you know, medieval dragons or something. And she suggested a loose theme around growth, and it was the perfect idea for it.
Yeah.
Especially because this was, you know, it's about creative growth too. It's outside of any of our comfort zones, you know.
Yeah.
None of us have ever done a big collaborative piece like this.
That was going to be one of my other questions too, was have you done something like this before, or was this just totally kind of one of those just inspired things where it's like, huh, you know what I should do?
Yeah, the closest they did. I did a character swap challenge with some friends last year where we each took an original character one of us did, and we drew it in our own styles.
Yeah.
So I got to play with collaboration a little bit that way.
Yeah.
But in terms of this project, no, this was completely outside anything I've ever done.
So we're here on June 6th, and this is debuting. When did the idea actually start?
Boy, I have to think. It was around, I think we met up with them just shortly into the new year. It was early January when we sat down and talked. And Ted did the research and he found the canvas, and I think we were painting on it by about early February.
Oh, wow.
So we hit the ground running pretty fast on it.
And then about 2 months of actually like getting it passed around to everybody?
Yep. We set up the structure where everyone could sign up for what week they wanted and started passing it off.
Yeah. And then when was the actual piece completed then?
Probably a few days before we debuted it. There were a few gaps we had to fill in. We had to fill in some of the background work and add a couple of other elements to tie it all together.
Yeah.
So we worked on it. We had a couple painting parties back here. I think there were about 3 or 4 of us that worked on it and brought it all together.
Yeah. And so everybody did their piece, and then once everyone's piece was done, then some of the artists kind of went back in and just kind of like filled in the the gaps and made it kind of more seamless, right?
Correct. Yeah, there were a few little white spots here and there, and some areas that needed a little bit just to tie the two pieces together. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think in the end, it all tied together really well.
Yeah. Yeah, because, and, you know, something that the listeners have already heard me say a couple times to the other artists is that even though growth, like, it's a theme, we're talking about it, that looks so different to different people, and it, you know, shows up in very realistic ways, in very kind of like dreamy absurdist ways, and it's just it's so much all coming together at once, and there's so much to look at that I don't know, it almost, in a weird way, it almost makes the painting looks bigger than it actually is, just because of how much is in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
You can feel all the artists in there.
I love that everyone is identifiably their style.
Yeah.
And I love that there's such diversity in the styles, and yet it all somehow ties together.
Yeah.
Which was a concern of mine going into it, as you know, it's a
just
grand
all gonna be-
experiment. Will this even work, or will it come back after the ninth that as you go, oh no, this is a huge fail, but
I've made a huge mistake.
right. But thankfully everyone did great. I knew all the artists individually that we invited.
Yeah.
All fantastic, and I trust them completely with it.
Yeah.
So
You seem to be the glue. All the artists are
like,
like, well, John asked me in, so I was like, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so it's fun to see it come together and get the updates after each artist did it on a weekly basis to see how it's grown out since then.
Yeah. You think there's going to be any more projects like this in the future?
I would love to do it again.
Yeah.
I would love to do it again. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about it. I definitely learned some things I'd want to tweak going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd love to do it again with all the same artists.
Yeah.
And there's also like 40 other artists I'd love to bring a lot in. So I don't know how we can do that. We would need like a whole wall for that.
Yeah. Man, well,
shaking his head no.
Your art is fantastic, and the project that you pulled together here is really, really cool. So,
thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for putting that out into the world, man.
Hey, thank you.
All right, hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
All right, everybody, that's it. Make sure you check out all the artists. They're all linked up in there. And check out Cocoon Art Space. If you're in Grand Rapids, go there. If you're not in Grand Rapids, go to their website. Go to their IG. All the links are at their website. Love you guys. Talk to you next time. Mwah!